There is an ancient truth embedded in human relationships. When you are hurt by someone, especially by someone you've allowed into the sanctuary of your heart, the pain is not just personal, it's transformative. The question is, how do you handle that pain? Do you lash out seeking vengeance? Do you internalize it, letting it erode your self-worth? Or do you choose a path of wisdom, clarity, and self-respect? When someone inflicts pain upon you, especially a man in whom you've placed trust, there's power in choosing a response that unsettles the narrative. Confusing him is not about games. It's about disrupting the patterns of disrespect and demanding a recalibration of the relationship dynamic. When someone hurts you, especially a man you've trusted, it strikes a chord deep within your being. It's not just the act that wounds, it's the betrayal, the breaking of an unspoken promise of mutual respect and care. But let's pause and examine that moment of hurt. What does it reveal about you? About him? About the dynamic that existed between you? This isn't about casting blame or assigning labels. It's about understanding the complexities of human interactions and finding a way to rise above the pain rather than letting it define you. Hurt is a teacher, albeit a harsh one, and its lessons are invaluable if you dare to face them head on. When we feel pain, our natural response is often reactive. Perhaps you feel the urge to confront him, to demand answers, or to retaliate in some way. Or maybe you withdraw, retreating into yourself, allowing the hurt to fester and grow. But neither of these responses serves you in the long run. Confrontation without reflection can lead to more conflict, while withdrawal without understanding can lead to resentment and a diminished sense of self. What if there was another way? A way that allowed you to regain your power without resorting to the same behaviors that caused the hurt in the first place? Confusion, when used with intention, can be a powerful tool. It's not about playing games or manipulating emotions. It's about disrupting the expected patterns of interaction. When someone hurts you, they often expect a predictable response: anger, tears, silence. By responding in an unexpected way, you create a space for introspection and recalibration. Confusion, in this sense, is a means of resetting the dynamic, of challenging the other person to reflect on their actions and reconsider their behavior. It's about breaking the cycle of hurt and reaction, and instead creating an opportunity for growth and understanding. Imagine a scenario where a man says something hurtful to you, perhaps out of anger, frustration, or his own unresolved issues. Your immediate reaction might be to defend yourself, to explain, or to lash out in return. But what if, instead, you responded with calm curiosity? What if you asked a simple, unexpected question: why did you feel the need to say that? Such a question is not confrontational, but it demands introspection. It disrupts the narrative he might have constructed in his mind to justify his behavior. It shifts the focus from your reaction to his actions and forces him to face the motivations behind them. This approach is not easy. It requires a level of emotional maturity and self-control that may feel out of reach in the heat of the moment. But it's precisely in those moments of challenge that you have the greatest opportunity for growth. By choosing to respond with thoughtfulness rather than reactivity, you assert your own strength and dignity. You show that you are not defined by the hurt inflicted upon you, but by your ability to rise above it. It's also important to recognize that confusion, as a strategy, is not a solution in itself. It's a tool, a means to an end. The ultimate goal is not to confuse for the sake of confusion, but to create a space for reflection and change. It's about encouraging the other person to see you not as an object of their emotions, but as a person deserving of respect and consideration. And it's about reminding yourself of your own worth and your own capacity for resilience. When a man hurts you, it's often a reflection of his own struggles and insecurities. This doesn't excuse his behavior, but it does provide context. Understanding this can help you respond from a place of compassion rather than judgment. Compassion doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It means recognizing the humanity in the other person while still holding them accountable for their actions. It means setting boundaries that protect your own well-being while leaving the door open for growth and reconciliation, if and when it's appropriate. This process is not about him, it's about you. It's about reclaiming your power, your dignity, and your sense of self-worth. It's about refusing to let someone else's actions dictate your emotions or your sense of identity. When you choose to respond with intention and thoughtfulness, you send a clear message not just to him but to yourself. You are not a victim. You are not powerless. You are capable of navigating even the most challenging situations with grace and strength. Hurt is inevitable in human relationships. It's a part of the messy, complicated reality of connecting with others. But how you respond to that hurt is entirely within your control. You can choose to let it break you, or you can choose to let it make you stronger. The choice is yours. And in making that choice, you not only transform the pain into a source of growth, but you also set a powerful example for others. You show that it is possible to face hurt with courage, to respond with wisdom, and to emerge from the experience not diminished, but elevated. When a man hurts you, it often feels deeply personal. The wound may seem like a reflection of something wrong within you, a shortcoming or failure that you believe caused the harm. But let's challenge that narrative. Often, the hurt isn't about you at all. It's about the unresolved battles he's fighting within himself. People project their pain onto others, whether intentionally or not, because they lack the tools to confront it directly. And this projection can manifest as words or actions that sting, leaving you to deal with the aftermath. The first step toward clarity is understanding that his actions are not a mirror of your value, but a window into his struggles. This realization is freeing, but it's also unsettling. It means accepting that the hurt inflicted upon you is part of a broader human experience of brokenness and imperfection. People are complex, messy creatures full of contradictions. A man who hurts you may simultaneously care for you, but his care is undermined by his inability to process his emotions in a healthy way. This doesn't justify his behavior, nor does it diminish your right to set boundaries and protect yourself. What it does is illuminate a path to responding with strength and insight, rather than impulsive reactivity. When you face this kind of pain, there's a temptation to take on the role of the fixer. You might think, if only I can help him see what he's doing, he'll stop hurting me. But this is a dangerous trap, one that shifts the responsibility for his behavior onto your shoulders. It's not your job to repair someone else's brokenness, nor can you force them to change if they're unwilling to do the work themselves. Your responsibility is to yourself to ensure that you are treated with respect and care, and to set clear boundaries that protect your emotional well-being. At the same time, there's an opportunity for deeper understanding here. Instead of reacting with anger or retreating into silence, consider responding with curiosity. This isn't about excusing his actions, but about seeking to understand them. Ask yourself, what might have led him to act this way? What fears, insecurities, or unresolved wounds might be driving his behavior? This approach requires emotional maturity and a willingness to look beyond the surface of the hurt to the deeper dynamics at play. It's not about fixing him, but about understanding the broader context of the situation, which can help you respond more effectively. There's a quiet power in refusing to react in predictable ways. When someone expects you to lash out in anger or crumble in despair, responding with calm and thoughtfulness can be profoundly disarming. It's a way of reclaiming control over the interaction, of demonstrating that you are not at the mercy of his actions or emotions. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending you're not hurt. It means choosing to express those feelings in a way that aligns with your values and maintains your dignity. One of the most powerful tools you have in these situations is your ability to articulate your thoughts and feelings clearly and assertively. When you express yourself with confidence and clarity, you send a message that you value yourself and that you expect to be treated with respect. This can be incredibly impactful, not only for him but also for yourself. It reinforces your sense of self-worth and reminds you that your voice matters. But what if he doesn't respond the way you hope? What if he becomes defensive or dismissive? This is a real possibility, and it's one you must prepare for. His reaction is not within your control, and it's not your responsibility. What matters is how you choose to respond. If he refuses to acknowledge his behavior or make an effort to change, that's a reflection of his limitations, not your worth. In such cases, the most loving and respectful thing you can do for yourself is to walk away. It's a painful decision, but it's also an act of courage and self-respect. Walking away doesn't mean you've given up or that you've failed. It means you've recognized that the relationship, as it stands, is not serving your well-being. It's an acknowledgement that you deserve better, not as an act of revenge, but as an act of self-love. And in doing so, you open the door to new possible relationships built on mutual respect, understanding, and care. The hurt inflicted by others is an opportunity for growth. It forces you to confront difficult truths about yourself and your relationships, to reevaluate your boundaries and values, and to deepen your understanding of human nature. It's not an easy process, and it's not one you would choose voluntarily, but it's also a chance to become stronger, wiser, and more compassionate, not just toward others, but toward yourself. You cannot control whether someone hurts you, but you can control how you respond. You can choose to react with anger or retreat into silence, or you can choose to rise above the hurt, to respond with clarity, strength, and grace. This choice is where your true power lies. It's a power that no one can take from you, no matter how deeply they wound you. And in claiming that power, you not only heal yourself, but also set a profound example for others of what it means to navigate the complexities of human relationships with courage and integrity. When a man's actions hurt you, one of the most natural responses is to assume that his behavior is a deliberate attempt to cause you pain. It's tempting to frame the situation in black and white. He is wrong, and you are the victim. But relationships, like human beings, are rarely so simple. To navigate the complexity of these situations, you must learn to look beneath the surface and recognize the patterns of behavior that drive him. By doing so, you gain a deeper understanding of both the situation and your own role within it, which is essential for regaining control over your emotional response. Many men struggle to express vulnerability. Society has conditioned them to equate vulnerability with weakness. And so instead of confronting their fears and insecurities directly, they suppress them or redirect them outward. This redirection often takes the form of defensive or hurtful behaviors, words said in anger, dismissive gestures, or emotional withdrawal. These actions aren't always rooted in malice. More often, they're expressions of an inner turmoil that he doesn't know how to navigate. It's important to understand that this doesn't excuse his actions, but it does explain them. Understanding this distinction allows you to see the bigger picture without compromising your need for respect and care. When someone hurts you, it's easy to react impulsively. The sting of betrayal or the ache of unkind words triggers an instinct to defend yourself. But reacting impulsively often leads to escalation, where hurtful actions are met with equally hurtful reactions. This cycle of pain reinforces the very behaviors you're trying to change. Instead, the power lies in breaking that cycle. This requires restraint, clarity, and an unwavering commitment to act in alignment with your values, even when it's difficult. It means choosing your response with care, not as a reaction to him, but as a reflection of who you want to be. There's a profound strength in pausing before you respond. In that pause, you give yourself the space to assess the situation, to understand your emotions, and to decide how best to proceed. It's in this space that you reclaim your agency. You're no longer a passive recipient of someone else's actions. You become an active participant in shaping the dynamic. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending the hurt doesn't exist. On the contrary, it means honoring your emotions by addressing them with intention and wisdom rather than letting them control you. One of the most disarming things you can do when a man hurts you is to respond with unexpected compassion. This doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or excusing bad behavior. It means choosing to see him as a flawed human being rather than as a villain. By doing so, you not only take the higher moral ground, but you also challenge his narrative. He may expect anger or bitterness, but when you respond with calmness and empathy, you force him to confront his own behavior in a new light. This shift can be transformative, but it requires emotional maturity and the courage to rise above the immediate pain. At the same time, compassion must be balanced with firmness. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect. It communicates that while you understand his struggles, you will not allow them to come at the expense of your well-being. Boundaries are not about punishing him, they're about protecting yourself. They're a way of saying, I care about you, but I also care about me. This duality compassion paired with firmness is a powerful stance. It allows you to maintain your dignity while also fostering an environment where healthy communication and growth are possible. Not every situation can be resolved, and not every man will respond to your efforts to engage with empathy and clarity. If he continues to hurt you despite your best efforts to address the issue, you must have the strength to walk away. This is not a failure, but an affirmation of your worth. Staying in a relationship where your boundaries are repeatedly violated diminishes your sense of self and reinforces the idea that you're willing to accept less than you deserve. Walking away, on the other hand, is an act of courage. It's a declaration that you value yourself enough to demand better, even if it means enduring temporary pain. There is a deep power in knowing that you can endure pain and come out stronger. When a man's actions hurt you, it's not just an opportunity to address the relationship. It's also a chance to grow as an individual. Each challenge you face, each moment of hurt that you navigate with strength and wisdom, adds to your resilience. It shapes you into someone who can handle life's difficulties with grace. And in doing so, you not only heal yourself, but also set an example for others. You demonstrate what it means to confront pain without becoming bitter, to address conflict without losing yourself, and to demand respect without compromising your compassion. When you find yourself in the position of navigating hurt inflicted by someone you care about, you're faced with one of the most significant challenges in human relationships. It's not just about understanding what happened or why it happened. It's about determining how you will move forward, who you will become in the process, and what kind of dynamic you want to create in your life. This isn't simply an intellectual exercise, it's an emotional and moral trial that tests your strength, clarity, and capacity for growth. One of the most profound truths about hurt is that it often mirrors vulnerability. When someone's actions wound you deeply, it's a reflection of the trust and openness you've extended to them. Hurt only penetrates the spaces where you've allowed someone to matter to you. And while it's tempting to view this vulnerability as a weakness to be corrected, it's actually one of the most powerful aspects of human connection. To be vulnerable is to be open to love, growth, and change. It's a risk, but it's also the foundation for anything meaningful in life. The key is learning how to protect that vulnerability without shutting it down entirely. When a man hurts you, whether intentionally or unintentionally, the instinctive response is often to retreat into a defensive posture. You might feel the urge to guard your heart, to build walls, or to retaliate. These reactions are understandable. They're born from a place of self-preservation. But the question you must ask yourself is this: do these responses serve your highest good? Do they align with the person you aspire to be? Reacting out of pain often leads to more pain, not resolution. It perpetuates a cycle of misunderstanding and conflict that only deepens the wound. Instead, the path forward requires a level of introspection that many people shy away from. It requires you to sit with the discomfort of your emotions without letting them dictate your actions. It's about asking yourself hard questions. What exactly am I feeling? Why does this hurt me so deeply? What assumptions am I making about his intentions? By exploring these questions, you gain insight not only into the situation but also into yourself. You start to uncover the patterns and triggers that shape your emotional landscape. This self-awareness is a powerful tool for breaking free from reactive cycles. In the midst of this process, it's crucial to remember that clarity doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. Recognizing someone's pain or struggles doesn't absolve them of responsibility for their actions. However, it does give you a framework for addressing the situation in a constructive way. If you can approach the person who hurt you with a clear mind and a calm heart, you stand a much better chance of resolving the conflict or, at the very least, finding closure for yourself. This doesn't guarantee that the other person will respond positively, but it puts you in a position of strength and integrity. One of the most powerful things you can do in such situations is to communicate your feelings without accusation. When you tell someone, "This is how your actions made me feel," you're inviting them into your experience rather than blaming them for it. This subtle shift in language can disarm defensiveness and open the door to understanding. It's not about letting them off the hook. It's about creating a space where real dialogue can occur. And even if they don't respond as you hope, you've honored your feelings by expressing them authentically. At the same time, you must be prepared for the possibility that the other person may not acknowledge or take responsibility for their actions. This is a painful reality, but it doesn't diminish your efforts or your worth. You cannot control how someone else behaves. You can only control how you respond. If they refuse to engage in a meaningful way, it's a reflection of their limitations, not yours. In such cases, the most empowering thing you can do is to release the situation with grace and focus on your own healing. Healing doesn't mean forgetting or pretending the hurt never happened. It means integrating the experience into your life in a way that strengthens you rather than weakens you. It's about learning the lessons that the pain has to teach you without letting it define you. It's a process that takes time, patience, and a willingness to confront your emotions honestly. But as you move through it, you'll find that the very experience that once felt like a breaking point becomes a cornerstone of your resilience. What matters most is that you remain true to yourself throughout this process. The pain of being hurt can easily tempt you to compromise your values or to act in ways that don't align with who you are. But every time you choose integrity over retaliation, understanding over judgment, and growth over stagnation, you're not just healing the wound, you're becoming a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate version of yourself. And that, in the end, is the greatest victory you can achieve. When someone hurts you, it's easy to let that wound define your reality. Pain has a way of amplifying itself, consuming your thoughts, and distorting your perception of everything around you. It magnifies doubts, exaggerates fears, and turns simple misunderstandings into monumental grievances. But when a man hurts you, whether through words, actions, or neglect, you must resist the temptation to let his behavior determine your value. You are more than someone else's treatment of you, and the measure of your worth cannot and should not rest in another's hands. Yet, it is also true that hurt cannot simply be dismissed. To ignore it is to allow it to fester, to take root and grow into resentment. It's a dangerous seed, resentment, because it does not stay contained. It grows like a weed, invading other parts of your life, choking out the possibility for joy, clarity, and healing. That is why you must confront it, not for the sake of the one who hurt you, but for your own sake. You cannot build a life worth living while tethered to unprocessed pain. But confrontation is not the same as retaliation. Many people believe that to confront someone who has hurt them is to retaliate, to hurt them back, to lash out in anger or indignation. This is a misunderstanding. True confrontation is about honesty, about looking at the situation clearly, and naming the reality of what has happened. It is about saying, "This is what you did, this is how it affected me, and this is what I need to move forward." That kind of honesty requires courage because it exposes you. It lays bare your vulnerability. But it is also a declaration of strength, a refusal to let the pain define you in silence. When a man hurts you, his actions reveal something about him, but they also force you to reveal something about yourself. How you respond is a reflection of your character, your values, and your ability to rise above the situation. It's not about being passive or submissive. It's about standing firmly in who you are and refusing to allow someone else's behavior to dictate the course of your life. Strength is not found in the loudness of your anger or the sharpness of your words. It is found in your ability to remain grounded, to hold on to your integrity, and to make choices that align with your long-term well-being. There's a particular kind of confusion that can serve you well in these moments. It's the confusion of grace, the ability to respond in ways that defy the other person's expectations. When someone hurts you, they often expect anger, withdrawal, or retaliation. They expect you to react in a way that confirms their view of the world, their justification for their actions, or their belief in your weakness. But when you respond with grace, with clarity, calmness, and a willingness to rise above, you confuse them. You disrupt their narrative. You remind them, consciously or unconsciously, of what they lack. This doesn't mean you have to accept bad behavior or tolerate mistreatment. Grace is not submission, and forgiveness is not permission. But when you respond with grace, you create the possibility for change either in the relationship or within yourself. You take control of the situation by refusing to play by the rules of pain and retaliation. You choose a higher path, not because it's easy, but because it's the path that leads to growth. At the same time, you must set boundaries. Grace without boundaries is not grace, it's self-abandonment. When someone hurts you, they are showing you where your boundaries need to be strengthened. They are showing you the limits of what you can tolerate, and it is your responsibility to honor those limits. Setting boundaries is not about punishing the other person. It's about protecting your own peace and ensuring that you do not lose yourself in the process of trying to maintain a relationship. There is a paradox here. The more you focus on your own growth and healing, the less the actions of others can control you. When you take the time to understand your emotions, to process your pain, and to rebuild your sense of self, you become resilient. You develop a kind of emotional armor, not the kind that blocks connection or love, but the kind that allows you to remain open without being destroyed by hurt. This is the essence of strength, to remain vulnerable without becoming fragile. The most profound response to hurt is transformation. If someone's actions cause you pain, let that pain be the catalyst for your growth. Let it drive you to become wiser, stronger, and more compassionate. Do not allow the actions of others to make you bitter or cynical. Instead, let them deepen your understanding of yourself and the world around you. Remember that your response to hurt is not just about this moment, it is about the person you are becoming. Choose wisely. When someone's actions cut deeply, there's a tendency to retreat into a cocoon of pain and indignation. It's an instinctive response, almost primal, to shield yourself from further harm by withdrawing or lashing out. But what if there's a better way to handle such moments? What if the real test isn't about avoiding the pain, but about transforming it into a source of strength and clarity? When a man hurts you, it's not just his actions that demand scrutiny. Your response becomes a reflection of who you are, of your ability to rise above the situation, and of your capacity to preserve your dignity in the face of adversity. Pain has a way of narrowing our perspective. It blinds us to the bigger picture, trapping us in a cycle of self-pity, anger, and retaliation. But if you let it, pain can also be a teacher. It can strip away illusions, forcing you to confront truths about yourself, your relationships, and the world. When someone causes you harm, it often reveals not only their flaws, but also your vulnerabilities. This isn't a reason to despair, it's an opportunity to grow. It's a moment to ask yourself, what does this situation require of me? How can I emerge from this stronger than I was before? There's a kind of power in refusing to react in predictable ways. When someone hurts you, they expect certain responses: anger, tears, or perhaps silence. These reactions can confirm their assumptions about you or justify their actions in their own minds. But when you respond with composure and clarity, you disrupt their expectations. You send a message not just to them but to yourself, that you are not defined by the hurt they've inflicted. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or pretending the pain doesn't exist. It means channeling that pain into something constructive, something that reflects your strength and self-respect. Confusion, in this context, isn't about manipulation. It's about rising above the scripts others expect you to follow. When you respond in ways that are thoughtful, deliberate, and grounded, you challenge the assumptions that underlie their behavior. If someone has hurt you intentionally, they may be seeking control or validation through your reaction. By refusing to give them that power, you assert your autonomy and demonstrate that your sense of self-worth doesn't depend on their approval or acknowledgement. But strength without boundaries is hollow. You cannot allow grace to become an excuse for tolerating mistreatment. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, a declaration that while you may forgive, you will not forget who you are or what you deserve. Boundaries are not walls, they are markers that define the space in which your dignity and peace can thrive. They communicate to others that while you are open to connection, you are not open to being diminished or disregarded. It's important to remember that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean erasing the wrongs or pretending they didn't happen. Forgiveness is about releasing yourself from the grip of resentment, which can be as destructive as the original hurt. Resentment keeps you tethered to the person who harmed you, giving them a lingering influence over your life. Forgiveness, on the other hand, sets you free. It allows you to move forward without carrying the weight of anger and bitterness, but reconciliation, if it is to happen, must be earned. It requires accountability, change, and a genuine effort to rebuild trust. At the heart of all this is a question of identity. Who are you in the face of pain? Are you someone who reacts impulsively, letting others' actions dictate your emotions and choices? Or are you someone who responds thoughtfully, guided by a deeper sense of purpose and self-worth? Pain, as unwelcome as it may be, offers a chance to refine your character. It challenges you to grow, to become more resilient, and to cultivate a strength that isn't dependent on external validation. When a man hurts you, the most profound response isn't revenge or withdrawal, it's transformation. It's taking the hurt and using it as fuel for your own growth. It's about becoming someone who can look back on the situation not with bitterness but with gratitude for the lessons learned. This doesn't mean excusing the hurtful behavior or dismissing its impact. It means refusing to let it define you, choosing instead to define yourself through your response. Life is full of moments where others' actions will test you, where their behavior will push you to the edge of your patience, confidence, or faith. These moments are unavoidable, but they are also opportunities. They are chances to affirm who you are, what you stand for, and how you choose to navigate the complexities of human relationships. When you rise above, when you respond with strength and clarity, you not only reclaim your power, you also remind yourself of the incredible capacity for growth and resilience that lies within you. And that perhaps is the greatest victory of all.